I'm Nick. I'm an electrical engineering student, and this is our team, Tracy, Roddy, Nick, and Jocelyn. Roddy's a physics student, and the rest of us are all electrical engineers. And we're here to tell you about the Sustainable Husky Den Plan. If you don't know, the Husky Den is the area, the dining area in the hub. So we'll tell you why our name was chosen. So the outline of our presentation includes an introduction, technical information. We'll go into what composting is, because our project revolves around composting at UW. And we'll give you an outline of the steps to accomplish what we'd like to do. And we'll also tell you about cost. We'll give you some time frame, project timeline, and the sources where we got our information. So presenting last gives us an opportunity to reflect on how our project takes an approach, mainly versus an infrastructure approach or a functional issue. And just in my personal opinion, sorry group, but our project is definitely a functional issue it's a solution to a functional issue instead of an infrastructure problem, in case that gives you insight into how to think about our approach. But moving back to our project, it addresses a serious inefficiency at UW in the composting system. Probably in the past at some point someone followed through on a sustainable design project like ours to implement infrastructure for composting, and that carried through, and we now see quite a few composting bins around campus, but there's a big inefficiency in the way that they're used and the functionality in how people dispose of their compostable materials. And we'll give you the true details on the data on how inefficient that is.
Recycling, and basically composting is the breakdown of organic waste so that organic matter and proteins can be put back into Earth's soil and reused. Composting has many agricultural and environmental benefits. When organic waste gets sent to landfills or organic materials gets put in the trash, the decaying of the organic materials creates methane gas. And methane is a greenhouse gas that's 21 times more potent in heat trapping capabilities as CO2, which is really bad for the environment. But with composting, it mitigates those greenhouse gas emissions, and it also can be reused in soil. And one of the good agricultural benefits that putting organic matter that's been composted back into the soil is it improves the moisture retention of soil, which decreases the need for fertilizers and herbicides in gardens and in farming. And Nick's going to talk about the current UW composting practices.
So it's pretty well agreed upon that composting is a good practice as an alternative to putting garbage in a landfill. And the UW has chosen to put in composting infrastructure, but for the amount of bins that we have, they're not being used correctly. This is results data for UW Trashing, which was an activity to raise awareness about composting and also collect true hard data. It was put on by UW Recycling Services, and sorting through landfill bins, they found that 53% of the material in these landfill-bound garbage bins was compostable. And it's assumed that this data applies campus-wide, although this was just from a select few buildings. And so, with that, there are the inefficiencies to tackle for these specific bins. The number of bins is one bin per 50 garbage bins on campus. So it may not seem like a lot, but it is significant, and you will find bins at most dining areas on campus, cafes, places like that. They're in the most effective places, but they're not being used effectively. So we would like to propose our solution to you for increasing effectivity, which is to raise awareness by placing signage not only at the point of disposal, but at the point of sale. We've spoken, Roddy and I met with a guy named Jack Johnson, who is a superstar. He's the lead for a group called UW lead of Garbology, who sorts through a certain amount of campus garbage each week and produces results like this. He told us that our steps were quite solid as an approach to develop a real system, and he also said that our approach of raising awareness at the point of sale is quite unique, and he would like to see results from the effectivity of our approach. So the first thing we'll tell you is Roddy's going to give you an explanation of Nick will tell you next steps for going through.
Okay, so our first step is that we want to create a partnership with HFS. This is mainly because we want to place most of our signage in HFS controlled areas, so we want to partner with them to determine the best locations for placing these signs, obtain permission, and actually have members of HFS, employees that work there, put out these signs every day when the various convenience stores or restaurants are open. We also want to partner with CFS to obtain the small amount of funding that we have planned to need for this project, and this will help to fund our project to make sure that we can move forward with our work. Before we start our pilot, so in step 2, we want to first design an awareness survey that will be given out by volunteers to patrons of whatever area we designate as where we're going to be running our pilot. What this will do is give us a general model for what patrons frequenting the area currently know about composting. Surveys will be developed to be very easy to understand and most likely use graphics that depict different items sold on campus, and will then have the people or the patrons that are answering the survey say where they think it should go, and we will see how accurate they are and where these items are actually, whether they're trash or compostable or recycling. We will distribute these surveys for a few days prior to our pilot, generally at peak hours, so we can get a good number of surveys in a small amount of time. Once we've completed these surveys, we will take the data and combine it together into a general model of what people know and use this to design signs that will then be placed during our pilot. We want these signs to target whatever we feel people don't know very well. If there's particular items that people are consistently saying go in the trash when they're actually compostable, or it's things like that that we want to make sure we really teach people about and educate the public. Once we've completed these signs, that we will post them at the point of sale. So this is like in lines while you're like waiting to purchase your food, or like around the cash register, so that people, while they're sitting there waiting to purchase, can read these signs, have time to take in the information, and they'll repeatedly see them every day, and this will help them cement it in their memory and help better recall this memory if they go to a trash bin where there aren't signs that tell them where they're supposed to sort their trash. After the pilot is done, which we've estimated about a month for, we want to wait about a week before distributing a second post-survey. The waiting a week will help us determine how much information people have actually retained from our signs, instead of just an immediate, oh, I saw this sign and I know I need to do this. We want to promote long-term awareness so that people will continue to compost even once they've left campus or when they're in areas where these signs aren't posted. After we've completed our post-survey, we will then take those results and build another model so that we have both a pre and post model before and after our pilot, and compare these two to see what we've effectively taught our audience. And with this knowledge, we can then determine how we can further improve and further spread this implementation across campus. And Roddy will talk about our costs for this.
All right, so before we give you our cost breakdown for our pilot project, I'd just like to give you a general idea how much we spend on composting or garbage recycling every year that we do. So this is a chart that we got from the annual report of recycling and the garbage waste measurement. So here you see we use net avoided disposal cost. What that means is we subtract the average cost per ton to recycle from average cost per ton to landfill, and then multiply by how much multiply by the total ton to recycle. By recycling, I mean like recycle and compost. So we actually been doing pretty good. So from the year of 2008, we saved about 300,000 up to last year. We saved about 1.2 million. So that we actually saved a lot right now. But like Nick was saying, we have the trashing report from here. Actually, the trash, all the trash we have, only 25% is the actual garbage waste. So that being said, we could have still saved about $113,000 each year because like we have this tons of trash in 2012, and then it costs about $135 per ton to landfill, but it only costs about $55 per ton to compost. And then this is how much it costs for our pilot project in Nelson. It's a really feasible solution to save a lot of money from composting and recycling. So, and then Jocelyn will give you the project timeline.
So, as you can see here in the Gantt chart, we've allotted about 84 days for this pilot project, which is about 2.5 months, a little bit over. We've divided the project into 3 phases. The first is the preliminary planning, second, implementation, and the third is post-implementation. So in the first phase, it's going to take about 2 weeks. We want to take a week to reach out to HFS and CSF to get that partnership. And then we'll take another week to get all the paperwork and secure the fundings, because without the fundings, well, I guess we could still do the project, but it would be helpful for them to aid us in this project. After we've secured the fundings, we move into the implementation stage, and that's when we take a week to really design careful surveys to make sure we're asking the right questions. We'll distribute the surveys for about a week, and then from there, take a few days to evaluate the results from that, and from there design the signs for about a week. And as you can see here, we'll take about 8 days to actually implement the signs. We have to get all the materials, build that. And the real bulk of the time is used in the pilot here. That takes about a month to kind of let people get used to the signs, raise awareness like that. And after a month, we'll have a grace period, as Nick said earlier, of about a week. From there, we take all the signs down, collect the data from the post surveys, and evaluate the data from that to figure out what the next step is in terms of, seeing if we've had improvement in that pilot location. And then from there, just a few days to say, okay, yes, we've seen improvement, and how can we take this pilot and spread it around campus. So all in all, we're just asking for $200 from HFS and CSF to fund our project, and clearly this is a very low-cost solution to a very big issue. As we've learned from this presentation, there are many benefits of the Sustainable Husky Den Plan, some of which include environmental, agricultural, and financial costs. So, we see every day people talking about changing the world on a global scale.